Instruments of Power and the Illusion of Freedom in Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Brave New World is set in the 26th century in London, controlled by the world state that worships the car businessman Henry Ford due to his technological innovation and perfection of the efficient assembly line. His futuristic society that operates like clockwork with maximum efficiency is upheld by a caste system, which segregates individuals into 5 working tiers in society immediately upon birth, ranging from intellects to blue-collar workers. The world state has eradicated familial bonds, and humans are birthed on a production line, and lower-value humans are further cloned to achieve a degree of uniformity. Huxley has created a perfect utopian system whose imposed happiness suppresses any individuality, free thought, and raw emotion. He has engineered a society whose citizens are blissfully ignorant, and where slavery, going unnoticed, is pleasurable. Instruments of Power. The world state operates upon a multifaceted system of control, using psychological manipulation and the promotion of casual sex and drugs. In doing so, Huxley creates a society who is conditioned to enjoy their slavery and who are wired to numb any forms of pain and truth through substance and behavioral abuse. Firstly, the world state relies upon psychological manipulation in order to permanently link each person to their respective roles in society. Jordan Peterson said, "In order to think, you have to risk being offensive." In Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, the world state city of London removes the ability to think, therefore increasing social stability and decreasing conflict. The world controllers use oxygen deprivation to damage their mental pathways according to their caste. Rubbing his hands, the world controller says, "Nothing like oxygen shortage for keeping an embryo below par," saying that the lower caste, the shorter the oxygen. By restricting their access to oxygen and therefore suppressing their instinctive human process of respiration, the world state is effectively stripping the humanity away. The playful way in which Mustafa Mond speaks, using phrases like "nothing like" and "the lower the case, the lower the oxygen," shows how this dehumanization is simply a means to an end. The result is a population that cannot produce original thought and therefore are simply unable to revolt. This de-individualization of the lower castes, such as the gammas, deltas, and epsilons, is additionally achieved by Bokanovsky cloning, which can create up to 96 clones of an individual. Furthermore, through sleep teaching or hypnopedia, they are still able to instill values in the masses that end up governing their beliefs. This aids in increasing the disparity between the castes, for example. But taking a closer look at how this affects the mind, an example in the book with a young boy named Tommy demonstrates this. I find it extremely interesting that Tommy fails to respond to a question, crying in response, but when prompted with a statement, or rather an order, "the Nile is the ... words begin to rush out robotically. Sleep teaching has made them unconsciously more responsive to orders rather than questions, which alters their creativity and ability to think. By controlling their beliefs and the words they use, much like in Orwell's 1984, they can achieve a degree of thought control. This serves as the foundation to social stability, which is supported by behavioral habits promoted by the world state, which essentially pick up any unorthodox behavior that thought control cannot." A saying that is reinforced in the minds of all citizens during hypnopedia is, "Everyone belongs to everyone." At the surface level, it appears to be a humble collectivist thought, but what these citizens are unable to do is truly understand its implications, having been restricted from original thought and blindly taught this phrase as a fact. This slogan actually defines every person as a possession of one another. Effectively, freedom is an illusion because everyone is subject to the needs and desires of others, and, for example, sexual needs. The world state removes family, love, and passion to eradicate the, quote, "destructive effects of indulging in passion or lust," as seen in Ovid's Tales or A View from the Bridge. Instead, sex is used as an instrument for distraction and pacification. Reacting to Mond, telling them that open sex was previously looked down on, the citizens react, "Poor little kids, not allowed to amuse themselves?" They could not believe it. Their disbelief is also accompanied by a sense of freedom which arises from their ability to indulge in their urges. Freedom is therefore built upon the ability to find comfort. Ironically, however, they don't realize their preferences are not their own, highlighting the 360-degree control of the world state. Here, sex, as a distraction and a source of pleasure, is a drug. Lenina, addicted, says, "Hug me till you drug me, honey. Kiss me till I'm in a coma." Through the elongated vowels and sweet talk, there is an eerie, zombie-like desire for sex in a way that mirrors our reliance upon drugs. For Lenina, constant sexual satisfaction and satiation is a tool for preventing boredom and unorthodox thoughts. For the world state, this prevents mistakes that arise from being consumed by lust. The third and most alarming means of control is Soma, the drug of the world state, and citizens are encouraged to take it regularly. It induces a state of happiness. When Bernard brings up the illegal idea of having a relationship with Lenina, she is disgusted, suggesting, "Why don't you take Soma when you have these dreadful ideas of yours? And rather than feeling miserable, you'd be jolly, so jolly." This toxic reliance on Soma is made clear as a means of suppressing any form of discomfort and alternate thought. The repetition of "so jolly" depicts Lenina as being in a trance-like state as she wanders off into thought afterwards, dreaming about Soma. It demonstrates how the world state creates an impulse in their citizens to numb the truth and blindly search for artificial joy. Here they use something called negative reinforcement, where a negative outcome is removed to enforce a behavior. In this case, discomfort and unorthodox beliefs are removed to reinforce servitude. Christianity without tears, that's what Soma is. This is another quote, and this parallel made between religion and Soma is haunting as it reinforces the blind reliance to an unquestioned external force. The net effect of Soma is to facilitate the escape of discomfort and pain. Ironically, however, despite providing them with the comfort and freedom they think they have, Soma is a substance that keeps them chained to their servitude. And since in Brave New World, ignorance is very much bliss, the world state makes them want to consume Soma and wants them to retain their suppression. This servitude works because, in creating comfort through a world void of pain, suffering, and conflict, the citizens find freedom and comfort. People believe they are free because they live in luxury, because they have clothes and a soft bed, unlike the natives across the borders in the reservation in New Mexico. It is furthermore through constant comparison between the past and this world state era that citizens are told how lucky they are to not live in discomfort, creating the illusion of freedom. As a result, the world controllers build contentness within the population who wouldn't dare to destroy this freedom that they have. Rebellion. Although Huxley depicts the world state's seemingly flawless enforcement of power and control, it is a handful of characters, Helmholtz, Bernard, and John the Savage, that rebel against a system that is void of individual thought and, quote, the human experience. John the Savage grew up in New Mexico outside the quote-unquote civilization of the world state. However, his mother, Linda, grew up in the world state. Upon John asking her philosophical questions about life, she fails to be able to answer, stating that she was not taught these things. John noticed that, quote, it was the same with everything else he talked about. Linda never seemed to know. The old men of the Pueblo had such more definite answers. The world state has embedded servitude in their citizens, and it's so ingrained in their minds that they no longer can entertain curiosity or the creativity to tell rich stories about the past like these natives. When confronted by requiring them to think, it becomes so clear that they are simply not wired to think for themselves, much like Tommy and the River Nile. John the Savage notices this and protests, "But I don't want comfort. I want God. I want poetry. I want real danger. I want freedom. I want goodness. I want sin." According to John, freedom is not consistent with comfort and ignorance, but rather the ability to choose comfort and ignorance and experience pain when it comes. The juxtaposition between his desires, such as goodness and sin, highlight that he wants to live in truth and not in a filtered, curated life. His unorthodox beliefs turn Helmholtz and Bernard, revealing how a seemingly indestructible system such as the world state still operates against the powerful and innate human condition. Huxley's development of these characters who attempt to uproot the world state and its caste system demonstrates the power of the human experience to remain just that, flawed, pain-filled, and unfiltered, but, in its essence, truly human.